My name is Harley Norton, and I am the opposition in this debate on the annual dolphin hunt in Taiji, Japan. My opponent had some valid points in his speech. He discussed the mercury problem in the meat of the dolphins. Dolphin meat contains large and unsafe quantities of mercury. Because the dolphins are hunted in Taiji, Japan, provide food for the Japanese citizens, the people are at risk of extreme health issues. I agree with this claim. My opponent also mentions that the process of the slaughter and the brutality of it are inhumane and immoral. I also agree with this claim. The hunts are cruel and inhumane, no doubt. I, to no degree, support what the Japanese people are doing, but I also understand that involving the United Nations will not help the situation. First of all, the UN has no power and no military force to back up their demands. And second, it would be impossible for the UN to intervene in this situation because it would be breaking their treaty called the Convention Concerning the Protection of World Cultural and Natural Heritage. Proof of this can be found in the source I provided, which defines the treaty and the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, otherwise known as UNESCO. The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization seeks to encourage the identification, protection, and preservation of cultural and natural heritage around the world considered to be of outstanding value to humanity. This is embodied in an international treaty called the Convention Concerning the Protection of the World Cultural and Natural Heritage, adopted by UNESCO in 1972. Customs are really important to the United Nations. The United Nations has an entire committee committed to protecting the customs of and cultures of other nations. So technically, the UN would never intervene on both national sovereignty of a nation and their traditions and culture. The hunt is nearly 80 years old. Something that's been done more than once is considered a tradition, generally. So if you think about it, I go to my grandma's house every dinner for Easter. That's been happening for at least the last 20 years of my family's history. To take that tradition away from us without consent would be immoral, wouldn't it? Well, although this is not on the same scale, it is the same situation as the dolphin hunt in Taiji, Japan. The hunts are a part of a tradition, and although they themselves may be immoral, it would also be considered immoral to take their culture and that tradition away from them. This is why I propose that the UN should not take action in this situation at all, because it would be breaking their treaty which promises to protect the traditions and cultures of all nations. National sovereignty is really important to the United Nations. They don't like telling people how to govern their own people. They don't like telling other nations how to govern their own people. And also, the United Nations wasn't created to make conflict. Rather, it was created to end conflict. If the UN were to take action in demanding an end to the annual dolphin hunt in Taiji, Japan, conflicts would arise because the UN would no longer seem to be a neutral party. If the UN did intervene, it would cause Japan to be isolated, creating sanctions and etc. This creates a negative impact that we would feel in America because Japan is one of the few Asian allies that America has. With all of that being said, it's clear that the United Nations cannot actually demand an end to the annual dolphin hunt in Taiji, Japan. I propose that rather than have the UN decry or demand an end to the annual dolphin hunt in Taiji, Japan, that the Japanese people who are in disagreement with this practice, as my opponent stated, because he did say that there were some people who did not agree that this was a tradition, I feel that they should take action themselves. The pros of aggressive protests and continuous efforts from Japanese citizens who do not support this tradition outweigh the pros of having the United Nations intervene. Because, quite frankly, I don't see any. If Japanese citizens acted in this way, as many American activists and animal rights activists from all over have been doing, there would definitely be much more success. As I have stated before, the UN has no way of enforcing their demands, and also technically cannot even legally demand an end to the dolphin hunt that because they are considered tradition. The negative side effects, including tensions between nations, would definitely be too grave to allow the United Nations to take any type of action in this situation. Thank you.